Maybe they never heard this sound before, but waking up at 5:30 a.m. to the screams of men in blue tracksuits, that had to be worse. And the worst part, these people, they were never given a choice. In the 1980s, South Korea was experiencing an incredible economic boom. After the devastating Korean War in the 1950s, the country had rapidly rebuilt itself. And with the 1986 Asian Games and the 1988 Seoul Olympics on the horizon, the government wanted to show the world a picture of success and prosperity. But behind what was called the miracle on the Han River, there were dark and painful truths hiding in the shadows. In 1981, a letter reached Prime Minister Nam Duk-woo. It was handwritten by General Chun Do-hwan, who had seized power in a military coup just a year earlier. In this letter, he ordered strict measures to eliminate begging and crack down on so-called vagrants. So the government launched a plan to clean up the streets before the international games. What followed changed everything. A new law allowed police to arrest anyone they decided looked like a vagrant. Social welfare centers were set up, and buses labeled vagrant transport vehicle roamed the streets, scooping people up like stray dogs. But it wasn't just about helping people. These centers were private businesses. The more people they brought in, the more money they made. Even the police earned commissions for every person they captured. It turned into a brutal system of human trafficking run by the government. The victims? Homeless people, orphans, disabled individuals, and even ordinary citizens who simply forgot their ID at home. No one was safe, and among all the horrific centers, one stood out as the worst: the brothers' home. Han Chung-son and his sister were just two of the hundreds taken to this nightmare. It was a beautiful autumn day in 1984. Han was just 8 or 9 years old, out in the city with his sister and father. When their father had some errands to run, he told them to wait at the safest place he could think of, the police station. But the police, the very people meant to protect them, were the ones who took them away. A bus pulled up, and despite their cries and protests, they were forced on board. They had no idea where they were going. They never saw their father again. Han Chung-son and his sister were just two of the hundreds taken to this nightmare. It was a beautiful autumn day in 1984. Han was just 8 or 9 years old, out in the city with his sister and father. When their father had some errands to run, he told them to wait at the safest place he could think of, the police station. But the police, the very people meant to protect them, were the ones who took them away. A bus pulled up, and despite their cries and protests, they were forced on board. They had no idea where they were going. They never saw their father again. On paper, Brothers' Home was a social welfare center, a place to help people get back on their feet. In reality, it was a prison. People were starved, beaten, and forced into slave labor. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., church bells and guard screams woke them up. They were forced to memorize hymns, and anyone who made a mistake was brutally punished. Every day they had to meet impossible work quotas. Carry this many stones, build this many walls. If they failed, they were beaten with baseball bats. Even children walking home from school were grabbed if accused of stealing food. A sandwich could get you a one-way ticket to Brothers' Home. People were tortured with ice-cold water, beaten, and even sexually abused. If anyone tried to escape, other prisoners were forced to snitch or face collective punishment. They all wore blue tracksuits, plastic shoes, and a number. No names, no identities. 4 people shared one bunk bed. They were fed rotten fish and barley mush. They weren't fighting to survive, they were fighting to keep their dignity. By 1986, there were 3,128 prisoners inside. Official records say 1 in 5 died, but many believe the real number was much higher. They were forced into labor, wood and metal work, fishing, construction, textile production. These products were exported to Japan and Europe. In 1987, police finally raided and shut down Brothers' Home. But the man who ran it, Park In-kyun, only served 2.5 years for embezzling state funds. He died free in 2016. Between 1985 and 1986 alone, the government paid $10 million to Brothers Home, and less than 10% of the prisoners had ever committed any real crime. To this day, almost no one has been held truly accountable. But Han Chung-son never gave up. He fought for years to reopen the case. Finally, he won. The court awarded 4.6 billion won in damages to 15 survivors. Squid Game may not be real, but what happened in South Korea was even more horrifying. That's it for this week. I make all of these videos by myself. If you want to support, don't forget to like and comment. See you next time.